U.S. money and move. Before you file that citizenship application, pause for a second, because this is one of the few decisions that can change your life in three different directions at once: your passport, your taxes, and your long-term security in the United States. Thoughtful. Imagine you naturalize. You feel proud, you celebrate, and then you learn your home country doesn't recognize dual citizenship, so your original passport is no longer valid. That can affect how you visit family, what rights you keep back home, and in some cases, even property or benefits. But here's the other side. If you don't naturalize, you may keep that original citizenship, yet you're still living with a status that comes with travel rules, renewal deadlines, and in certain situations, deportation risk that U.S. citizens simply don't face. So, which is better, becoming a U.S. citizen or remaining a green card holder? The honest answer is that it depends. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you a clear, practical way to decide based on your real goals: travel, family, taxes, career, and peace of mind. So you don't make a permanent choice based on pressure, rumors, or incomplete information. Let's start with something that surprises a lot of people. Many immigrants who qualify for U.S. citizenship still choose not to apply right away, and it's not always because they're ungrateful or uninterested. Often it's because they're doing a very rational cost-benefit analysis. A green card already gives you the right to live and work in the U.S. permanently. You can buy a home, build credit, start a business, raise children, and in many ways live a normal American life. If your day-to-day life is already stable, it's fair to ask, what do I gain by naturalizing and what might I lose? One of the biggest reasons people remain green card holders is the fear of losing their original nationality. Some countries do not allow dual citizenship at all. Others allow it on paper but create problems in practice. If your home country cancels your citizenship when you naturalize elsewhere, then U.S. citizenship can mean giving up your original passport for good. For many families, that isn't just symbolic, it's practical access to their roots. It can affect whether you can travel home easily, how long you can stay, and whether you can enter during emergencies without visas and extra approvals. And in some countries, citizenship affects more than travel. It can influence your ability to own land, inherit property, keep certain legal rights, or access benefits you contributed to, like social programs or retirement systems. Even if you personally don't plan to move back, you may still care about maintaining those rights for family reasons. Some people also have business interests, rental properties, or long-term financial ties abroad that are easier to manage as a citizen of that country. When you look at it that way, staying a green card holder can feel like keeping options open. Another major factor is taxation and financial reporting, especially if you plan to live outside the U.S. at some point. In broad terms, U.S. citizens are taxed based on citizenship, not just residence. Green card holders are generally treated as U.S. tax residents as long as they hold that status. For someone who plans to retire abroad, run a business overseas, or spend long stretches outside the U.S., that can become a serious planning issue. It may mean ongoing U.S. tax filing, reporting foreign accounts, and navigating rules that don't exist for many other nationalities. Even when people don't owe additional U.S. tax because of credits or treaty benefits, the paperwork can still be complex and stressful. Some people are fine with that. Others find it overwhelming, especially when they're trying to live a simpler life in retirement. And it's not only the IRS side. U.S. status can create extra compliance requirements with foreign banks. Some foreign institutions are cautious with U.S. clients due to strict reporting regimes, and you may face extra questions, extra forms, or sometimes outright refusal. That can matter a lot if your future life plan includes banking and investing outside the U.S. This leads to a related point. If you ever decide you no longer want lifelong U.S. tax ties, the path out is different depending on whether you are a green card holder or a citizen. Giving up a green card can be relatively straightforward compared to renouncing U.S. citizenship, which typically involves a formal process, significant fees, and in some situations, additional tax consequences. I'm not saying anyone should plan to exit from day one, but if you're the type of person who values maximum flexibility, it's smart to understand that citizenship is harder to reverse than permanent residency. A third reason some people avoid naturalization is risk tolerance. Specifically, fear that the naturalization process will reopen old issues. When you apply for citizenship, the government reviews your file again. For many applicants, that review is routine and goes smoothly. But if you have any uncertainty, an old arrest, a case that was dismissed, a sealed or expunged record, prior immigration complications, inconsistencies in past paperwork, long trips abroad, or anything you're not sure how USCIS will interpret, then filing can feel like reopening a door you worked hard to close. Sometimes the fear is justified, sometimes it's anxiety without a real legal basis. But either way, it's common. People worry, what if something from 15 years ago becomes a problem now? Or what if an officer views a past issue differently today? And while it's not true that every old issue will derail an application, it is true that citizenship is a legal process, not a celebration formality. If you have a complicated history, it's wise to get a legal consultation before filing instead of hoping everything will be fine. Then there's the simplest barrier. The process costs money and effort. Filing fees are not small, and if a household wants to naturalize together, the total cost can be significant. Beyond the fees, the English and civics requirements can be intimidating, especially for older residents, people who work long hours, people who rarely use English at work, or people who get anxious during interviews. The test isn't impossible, but the pressure can feel heavy. Some applicants also worry about reading and writing, not just speaking. Others worry their accent will be misunderstood. And while some applicants qualify for age-based exceptions or disability accommodations, many people don't know the rules or aren't confident they qualify. Finally, many people simply remain green card holders because life feels complete already. They have stable jobs, a home, family, and community in the U.S. They renew their green card when needed and don't feel limited. For them, permanent residency is not a temporary identity. It's their long-term status, and it works. Others feel deeply connected to their home country. Their identity, culture, and retirement plans may be tied to staying a citizen of their origin country. In those cases, choosing not to naturalize can feel like preserving who they are, not rejecting the U.S. Now let's talk about the other side, because U.S. citizenship has benefits that are not small. And for many people, they're worth it, even when there are trade-offs. One of the most visible benefits is the U.S. passport. For many travelers, a U.S. passport provides broad access and makes international movement easier. But beyond the passport power rankings, the real value is often the simplicity and reduced stress. Green card holders can absolutely travel, but they travel with conditions. If you stay outside the U.S. too long, you can be questioned about whether you still live here. Extended trips can create complications. Some travel requires additional documents. Even shorter trips can feel stressful because permanent residents may be pulled into secondary inspection and asked questions about work, residence, and ties to the U.S. Citizens generally don't carry that same level of immigration status anxiety when traveling. You don't worry that a long family emergency abroad could put your status at risk. You don't calculate days outside the U.S. with the same concern. If you travel frequently or you want the freedom to leave for long periods without immigration consequences, citizenship can significantly reduce stress. Another major benefit is the protection from deportation. Permanent residency is strong, but it is not the same as citizenship. Certain criminal issues can create immigration consequences for green card holders, including loss of status in serious situations. Sometimes it's not even a conviction at first. It can be charges, pleas, misunderstandings, or prior matters being revisited. People often say permanent residents are one mistake away from serious consequences, and while that phrase can be dramatic, it reflects a real legal difference. Citizenship is far harder to take away in ordinary circumstances. For most people who naturalize honestly and qualify, citizenship brings peace of mind. After naturalization, you are not subject to removal proceedings the way permanent residents are. Yes, there are rare cases of denaturalization if the government proves serious fraud in how citizenship was obtained. But for most everyday applicants, that's not a practical concern. The day-to-day comfort of knowing you cannot be deported is a powerful reason many families choose to naturalize. Family immigration is another area where citizenship can make a major difference. Permanent residents can sponsor certain relatives, but the categories are limited. and waiting times can be long. U.S. citizens have broader sponsorship abilities, and for certain close relatives, a faster and more direct path. This matters if your long-term plan includes bringing parents, a spouse, or children to the U.S., or if you want to reduce the uncertainty and delay created by quota backlogs in certain categories. Citizens also have options to sponsor family members that green card holders cannot sponsor at all. Even when those categories involve long waiting periods, having the option matters. And for parents with minor children, there are situations where children may automatically acquire citizenship when the parent naturalizes, depending on the child's age and living arrangements. For families, that can simplify the child's future significantly. Citizenship can also expand opportunities in work and education. Some scholarships, grants, and programs are restricted to U.S. citizens, particularly federal programs. Citizenship can make it easier to access certain kinds of funding for education or training. It can also open doors to jobs that require citizenship, often government roles, jobs involving sensitive data, or positions requiring security clearances. Some licensing paths and regulated professions can be simpler as a citizen, depending on the field and the state. Even in jobs that allow green card holders, employers sometimes prefer citizens because it removes uncertainty around renewals, travel concerns, and documentation issues. That doesn't mean green card holders can't build excellent careers, they absolutely can. But citizenship can reduce friction and expand the number of doors available. Over a long career, even small reductions in friction can add up to better job mobility and negotiating power. Another underrated benefit is psychological, the ability to stop dealing with immigration maintenance. Green cards expire and must be renewed. Addresses must be updated. Replacement cards sometimes become necessary. Notices can be missed. Travel rules must be considered. Many permanent residents spend years living with a low-level background anxiety about paperwork, even if everything is fine. Citizenship can bring relief. Once naturalized, you no longer renew a green card, and many of the repetitive interactions with immigration agencies end. Then there are civic rights that only citizens have. Voting is the most obvious. Permanent residents cannot vote in federal elections, and in most places they cannot vote in state and local elections either. Citizens can vote in all elections and directly participate in decisions that affect their communities: schools, taxes, local policies, and national leadership. Citizens can also run for many public offices that are completely off limits to permanent residents, from local boards to higher roles depending on eligibility. Jury service is another citizen-only responsibility. Some people see it as inconvenient. Others see it as meaningful participation in the justice system. Finally, citizenship is emotional for many immigrants. It can represent closure, belonging, and a sense of permanence. After years of building a life here, working, paying taxes, raising children, buying homes, citizenship can feel like the final confirmation that you fully belong. It can remove the feeling that your presence is tied to a card, a renewal cycle, or a status that could theoretically be challenged. For many, that stability is worth more than any checklist of benefits. So how do you decide without getting overwhelmed? The best approach is not to ask which is better, but to ask which fits my life and future plans. Start with your home country's dual citizenship rules. If your country does not allow dual citizenship and you are not willing to give up your original nationality, that may be the deciding factor right there. For some people, citizenship is still worth it, but at least you should make that choice with clear eyes, not as an accidental surprise after you naturalize. If you are unsure how your home country handles dual nationality, research it carefully and consider speaking to an attorney in that country as well, because the consequences happen on both sides. Next, consider where you plan to live long-term. If you plan to spend the rest of your life primarily in the U.S., citizenship often makes sense because it maximizes protection and reduces status-related anxiety. If you plan to retire abroad or spend large parts of the year outside the U.S., you need to think carefully. Green card holders have travel rules that can become stressful for long absences. Citizens do not face those immigration status travel rules, but citizens do carry ongoing U.S. tax filing obligations. So the abroad plan can push people in either direction depending on what matters most. travel freedom and status security versus tax flexibility and foreign banking simplicity. Then consider your personal history. If you have any arrests, charges, immigration complications, extended travel, prior misstatements on forms, or anything that makes you uncertain, do not guess. This is exactly where a consultation with a qualified immigration attorney can save you from expensive mistakes. Many people are perfectly eligible but anxious. Others have issues they don't realize are serious. A review before filing is often the smartest move you can make. It can help you understand risk and, if needed, correct issues properly rather than walking into a process blind. After that, consider your family goals. If sponsoring family is important to you, citizenship can be a major advantage. If you have parents abroad you want to bring, or if you want faster processing for certain relatives, citizenship may give you a clearer and quicker path. If your children are minors, citizenship may also provide benefits that simplify their status depending on the circumstances. Now, consider your career and education plans. If your goals include government work, roles requiring security clearances, certain federal programs, or you want the maximum range of scholarships and grants, citizenship may open doors. If your career path is already stable and does not require citizenship, this factor may be less important, but it's still worth thinking about, especially for younger permanent residents who may change careers later. Finally, consider peace of mind. Some people are comfortable renewing their green card, tracking travel rules, and living as permanent residents for decades. Others find the conditional feeling stressful, even if nothing is wrong. If the idea of being fully protected from deportation, traveling without status anxiety, and never renewing a green card again would significantly improve your quality of life, that's not a small benefit, it's a real one. Here's the bottom line. Citizenship is often the best choice for people who want maximum security and long-term stability in the U.S., and who either can keep dual citizenship or are willing to give up their original nationality. A green card can be the better choice for people who strongly need to keep their original citizenship, who value flexibility to potentially exit U.S. status later, or who have complex international plans where citizenship-based obligations would be a burden. One important reminder before you act. This video is general education, not legal or tax advice. Small details can change outcomes. Your travel history, your criminal record, even if you think it's minor, your prior immigration filings, your home country's citizenship rules, and your financial situation. If taxes are a major part of your decision, especially if you plan to live abroad, talk to a qualified tax professional. If eligibility or risk is a concern, speak with a qualified immigration attorney before filing. If you want, tell me your country of citizenship, whether you plan to live in the U.S. permanently or retire abroad, and whether family sponsorship is a priority for you. I can help you map out a simple decision checklist so your choice becomes clear instead of stressful.